Yeah, I know. I didn't say anything in the beginning just to see how it would go. So, can I be heard? This is the most important question of the night. Hello, do I have audio? Do I have to do sock puppets or interpretive dance? Yay! Man, I have been sweating bullets over this thing. I know, I look washed out. There's all kinds of settings and things like that to mess around with. I installed Windows 11 on an Intel NUC last night, and then periodically on minor brain breaks, I would go into the room where I set it up and get an application installation started and whatever. A lot of back and forth thing, mostly trying to do work here at my desk. And then 5 o'clock rolled around. I moved everything in here and started, okay, I got 2 hours to make this work. And it's taken just about every minute of that. This machine is going to have 2 purposes in its life. It will be a streaming machine. It'll stream on here. I will stream on Discord, wherever and whatever I stream. I'll Zoom stream from here. And it's going to be, I get a little bit of an echo here because I finally found some audio settings at the end. And then it will be my DJ machine instead of a laptop. I love this thing. I'll tell you what. So my laptop sitting here next to me, which everything is going to move off of it and to another NUC because they're going to come down in price now that they've canceled them. With its 4th generation Intel CPU, when I do this, it shows 60+% CPU utilization. What am I doing here now? I've been seeing somewhere between 0.2 and 0.9%, 0.8, 0.4. All right, so I got the memory. I've got the CPU horsepower. It's a 10th generation CPU. We got 64 gigs of RAM in here. This should fill the bill. So the next question is, let me know as time goes on, as show goes on, if we get out of audio video sync. Obviously, that's going to need some adjusting. Hopefully, that was just poor CPU power and settings and age and all that good stuff. So maybe we got all of this solved with one fell swoop. So either way, I'm excited. New machine always breathes new life into your soul. It's almost a shame this one's going to be a dedicated machine. I've got 2 other NUCs. One of them is my Ubuntu daily driver. The other one is an Ubuntu experimental platform. Yeah, new rigs are like second Christmas. It won't game. It'll do basic games. I can do Borderlands on a NUC. And I do all the time. But, so excited. Hey, well, anyways, it is, what day is it? It's Thursday again. And this is exciting. Sorry, I'm just so, I'm so ecstatic about the whole affair. Anyway, it's Thursday night. It's around 7 p.m. Central Time where I am in the northern suburbs of Houston, Texas, enjoying our, as ever and always, 100-degree heat. But we are here together on ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything Digital Alchemy. I am David Rush, your erstwhile tech from Texas. This is ADRAMADA, and we're here to celebrate technology, and in particular, its daily impact, its life. I quit. I worked till about 3 this morning, and have done that for the last 2 nights. I was up with Tullowit and Patricia Grace and some other folks who were up at silly hours of the morning doing stuff. And then the clock goes off at 5:30. I did not get up when the clock went off at 5:30 because I went to bed at 3 and said, nah, I'm picking up 2 more hours. So I didn't get up till about 7:30. But I could use just a little more highly caffeinated iced tea tonight. Anyway, we are interested in how the advancement of technology impacts our daily lives and in our long-term lives. I've been working on a new description for the show for an important reason that I will mention here ever so briefly. Topics are wide-ranging, and we celebrate technology from electric cars to electric guitars, music and movies, the synergy of energy, booting to computing, Linux to ethics, the chase to space, cyber to fiber, security to electricity, and Raspberry Pi to Li-Fi and AI. I missed there was another Fi thing I had in there. It didn't get transferred over. Oh well. Anyways, we're not afraid to delve into social topics either. Religion, sex, politics, COVID. This is so becoming a thing of the past. I surfed past a television program yesterday while the missus and I were grabbing a little dinner before I got back in here and got started on the project. And I don't know, surfed past some court drama or detective drama or whatever. And it's ostensibly filmed recently, but there were still all the plexiglasses up in front of all of, the jurors and the judge and the various court officers and participants. I thought, nobody does that anymore. I have been to court recently in the jury box, or at least in the working to either avoid or get on the jury box. And this stuff is gone here in Houston. Maybe there's some that I suppose is up to a judge. My courtroom, my rules. But there we go. It is Thursday, July 20th, 2023. This is, after you count the shows that have been debacles and I've deleted them, show number 22. We did it. We had a decent show last week. Some minor techno flaws that hopefully this one solves. And we are just having fun. So made lots of audio, video adjustments. We pine for ping. And we shall see. So we've, after 3 attempts in probably 5 weeks or so, we got Angie installed up and running on the last show. So we were due for something new. And today we are going to do something new. Moving on to fresh pastures. And so we open the show with Eep, Op, Ork, Ah. If you know what that means, look it up and figure it out. Yeah, I don't know what's up with Senior Wounded Deer. But Wounded Deer did appear on my back channel because he was watching on the front channel on Monday of this week. So that was really nice. That's not unusual for him. He often spectates, just doesn't typey-wipey. So, the big news. Is there any big news this week? Yes, there is one piece of, for me, really big news. I have been watching, listening, learning, participating in Discords all over the place. And it became so obvious. Discord isn't the end-all, be-all social media outlet for companies. But it's a big one. It's an important one. And I've seen my friends, some of you here online right now as we sprechen, set up Discord servers. And they are much smarter than I am, but I thought, well, maybe I'll follow in their footsteps. ADRAMADA has a Discord server. So if you're watching this on the archive, if you're watching this live, I'm posting the link now, the invitation, in the YouTube chat. We are at the ground floor. The only people who are over there right now, besides myself, are our 5 moderators, some of whom are here. Jason is here, Tullwood is here, Patricia Grace is here, and there's 2 more who make our shows occasionally, but because of their schedules, they can't always do that. So we got ideas. I want to hear your ideas. We're going to have great things on there. And so please come on over, join us. We're going to, it's a tech community builder. Help us build a community of people who love tech. And we don't care if you're automotive tech, if you're a musical tech, if you're a Linux tech, whatever your tech affinity is. That's what we're going to do. If you come over there, please post in the forum that matches the topic of your post. And if there is no matching one, don't invent. Send a message to me or one of the mods and say, hey, I'd like to talk about this kind of tech. Can we have a channel for that? And the answer is probably, yeah. I don't want it cluttered with 500 channels. So we'll clumpify them a little bit, but yeah, you got it. Notice you don't have I notice you have an energy channel. I do have an energy channel. And I've been thinking about it. There's some channels that I coulda, shoulda, woulda made. I'm debating whether or not we should have non-tech channels, a humor channel or things like that. It fosters community. So there's so much to do and think about. Oh yeah, but for energy, we can talk solar and nuclear and wind and water, hydropower, whatever tickles your fancy. All right, moving on then. Today, teasing the project, today's project is going to be a closer look at ping. I'm going to get a little bit into the mythology of it. Let me set this up. I came up with the ping thought the day after last week's show. Oh yeah, there's a good topic. There's things that I want to talk about and do and so forth. And I spent the next evening setting up labs and experiments and doing research and writing an outline and trying things. And that's as far as I've got. I've done it all one time. I didn't make my usual step-by-step pedagogical notes. So this might be a little loosey-goosey, but I'm going to get important things across. So it's going to be a fun show. Into tech news of the week. This has been approved for a long time, but when standards get approved, sometimes it takes a while for products to hit the marketplace. Some of these products have already hit the marketplace, but the biggest newsy one that made the news yesterday, USB 4.0 products are out. There's not many individual products, but there's a few, and they're very pricey, like an external video card that you plug into a USB 4 port. Hubs are the real big news that are out, because hubs have, look, the capacity of USB 4 is huge, on the order of 40 gigabits per second. That is just unbelievable. And with that means you can plug in a half a dozen standard monitors if you have a hub that's got a half a dozen video outputs and billions of network interface cards on the hubs. They provide power. The hubs that I saw advertised yesterday, 100 watts of power. So you don't plug your computer in anymore. You plug your USB 4 hub into the wall and then plug it into the USB 4 port, and that's what powers your system. Thunderbolt does this. My missus has a Thunderbolt hub upstairs in her office, and she doesn't plug her laptop in. It's powered from the Thunderbolt port, along with a pair of 4K DisplayPort monitors and a 4K, I think that was just a 1K, an HD 1920 by 1080 2K monitor. It doesn't power the monitors, but it feeds the monitors. So, and USB ports and. So this is a new world. And I'll tell you what sucks about it. Technology is great. The advancement of technology is great. Unchecked technology, we can talk about that. But I don't know about you. I looked at this stuff and I said, I want it. I must have it. It's no good unless you've got a computer that's got USB 4 ports. And those are few and far between, and they are, open up those wallets, pricey. Speaking of fast things that have been approved, and some products have been dribby-drabbing out, the big new product from Samsung is GDDR7, Graphics DDR7. If you didn't know it, we're using GDDR6 chips right now in all of the top-end video cards, your 4090s, your 4080s, things like that. Throughput on those, on GDDR6, is 1.1 terabytes per second. GDDR is claiming a 40% increase over that. It's rated at 1.5 terabytes per second. Pre-production models are out. They'll be in pre-production quantities to the various video card manufacturers, third and fourth quarter of this year. They will be in full production early next year. So get ready for the next generation of Uber GPUs. After overhead, Samsung is anticipating 20% more efficiency, not just speed, but they're going to use 20% less power to get that more speed. That's pretty impressive, huh? All right, before I go to the next news, let's see who all be here. Oh, man. The wounded deer. I'll get back down there. That is so good to see you, my friend Scott. Hey, we've been on for 16 minutes. Are we in sync? Is audio and video anywhere close to sync for a change? I like this. Sudo apt gets Scott and he appeared. Sudo works. I noticed kind of okay, that's where we left off here. So there is not yet an English channel. How will the French ever get to Discord server? Look, if the French got to a Discord server here, the first thing they would do is surrender. Oh, I'm kidding. I love the French. I'm a Francophile. I'm a Francophone. But, you know, if I can't do a French surrender joke once a week, my week is in the garbage can. Scott Jenigan, late for the party. Was I summoned? It didn't even have an at. So the summon, your ears must have been burning. Let's just go with that. Nice to see you as always, Scott. Jason, I was about to ask the speed, pecking slowly. Okay. Everybody. Scott, this is going to be good. New computer, new setup, new everything. You and I are ready to co-host. I got the tools in place now. We are cooking. Thank you. I take great pride in collecting geek shirts and wearing them for these shows. Grazie. Still sunk. Yeah, so Jason injured one or two fingers and is typing with his elbows. Sync is good. Thank you, Jason. It's very close, says Scott. I'll take Jason's answer. Good. Sunk is past tense of sync. Oh, I thought we were talking about Titan. Ooh, too soon. Sorry. Or is it a participle? Only if it's dangling. You want to talk participles with Scott here? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? All right, what else is going on? Story time. It's kind of tech, too. Years ago. I'm going to put this over 12 years ago. I couldn't put a date on it. I had a need to convert a raster image to a vector image. Bird! Hit the brakes. Let's make sure everybody's singing from the same hymnal. A raster image is made up of pixels next to each other, spaced apart from each other, colorized. And that's its problem. Because when you zoom, the pixel gets larger, the spacing gets larger, they get blockier, and they become out of resolution. It looks like a Manet painting. As opposed to vector graphics, where the lines and the circles and everything aren't defined by pixels, they're defined by mathematics. This is a line that is relative to the whole image, 0.06% wide at this point, and it's on an angle of this many degrees, and it starts at this, okay? It's a very descriptive kind of thing, but when you zoom in on it, it never gets pixelated. You can zoom almost infinitely. So more than a dozen years ago, I had this need to convert a raster image to a vector image. Not possible. 12 years ago. And I haven't thought about it much since then. But I've been doing a lot of graphics work in the evening here. And I do raster graphics because I don't know how to use Adobe Illustrator. That makes vector graphics. and GIMP isn't a vector graphics creator. I have switched to, I have added to my arsenal Inkscape, which can do vector. But I've been doing raster, and I wish they were vector. And I thought, wait a minute, it's been a dozen years since I've looked into that. Are there converters now? Man, when it rains, it pours. You want to convert your raster graphic to vector graphics, piece of cake. It's baked into Adobe. It's baked into Inkscape. There are zillions of online converters. You upload your image and there's all kinds of options and things like that. You pick the options you want, or you accept the default and you say, okay, rasterize this. Vectorize it. And okay, download. And of course, there are lots of dedicated apps and programs, free ones and paid ones. And you know me, I'm a Linux guy, so I immediately headed out and started looking for Linux versions of those. They're out there. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I did some testing. I thought, yeah, this is really interesting, but it doesn't count unless somebody's actually put eyeballs on it and put the test on it. So let me say vectorization site, : whack whack space. Okay, this is a good invitation here. All right, so this is the one that I experimented with, and let me show you the result of my experimentos. Again, new setup, new configuration. This isn't going to be the prettiest set of images that you're ever going to see, but I don't know what I just did. Wow. I accidentally hit a new keystroke combination, and to our great good fortune, it took everything except my active app and minimized it. I held down the home key the Windows key and pressed home. And then fortunately when I did it again, it brought everything back. Oh, but I got a problem here. Whatever's going on, bad things are happening. My command prompt is doing weird stuff. CLS. Okay. Back to this. Hit the right stuff. Yeah, you already saw that. All right, so I could make these a little bit bigger, but what you've got here is an image on the left that's a raster image, and the same image preview on the right. They're the same size, obviously. But what happens when I zoom in on them? Well, there you go. I zoomed in. They both zoom in at the same thing. And you can see this one starts to pixelate. And look at this nice razor sharp line. So I could take that image now and any other image, vectorize it, and it becomes almost infinitely expandable, and it never loses sharpness. So what a useful and powerful set of tools in 2023. I don't know how long they've been around because, again, I've ignored it for so long. But that's just exciting. This, let's see if we can zoom this a little bit, is one of the output option configuration screens. So here's some file types that you can output, SVGs. Those are the file types you see on websites that are automatically expandable. You know, if you're going to see it on your phone, it's this big, but if you see it on a desktop, it's this big. And if you zoom in on it, it becomes this big. Those are SVGs. EPSs, those are encapsulated PostScripts, DXFs. You get the idea. I'm not going to read all these to you. So, and this is from that site I just linked to you. So it's good stuff out there. It is really good stuff. That's all the slides that I've got on that. I didn't make many slides this week. That's all of them, in fact. Checking my notes. Oh, okay. We'll come back. See who's here. More stuff. Bait on the line. My sudo apt get did not summon Scott using poor grammar did. Grammar sense is tingling. Somebody's using poor grammar. I've got to get over there. Jersey slang is kryptonite. I've spent a lot of time working with Joe Rahm. You may know Joe Rahm because he's the presenter and voice of Network Plus for Total Seminars on their Udemy and other offerings. He and I are working together on a work project, and I've spent a lot of time with him in the last week or so, more than I have in the couple years that he's been there, because we haven't had a project together till now. What a fun Jersey guy. I used to live in Jersey. Tollywood lived in Jersey. Joe still lives in Jersey, and we've talked about shared experiences and places. A lot of fun. Yous guys ain't doing nothing. Hello, 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 Abu Bakr Al-Hajj. Nice to see you. R-A-M-M. Ram. All right, next. There has been a kerfuffle in the industry for the last 5 or 6 weeks. We've talked a little bit about it on the show. We were going to have a guest, but the dust settled before our guest needed to appear, and I excused him. But Red Hat did some odd stuff that's not sitting well with a lot of people. One of the reactions has been, even with the dust settled, is they've sort of added a twist to FOSS, free and open software. Free and open software, whatever the other S is. And so people said, you know what, I'm going to have my say using my own free and open wares, and it's free and open shirtwear. So people are creating all kinds of designs that express their love or distaste for the thing that they've done. That was the slide that saw up when I first started the show. Should I bring it up again? Why not? So in the evening, I got sat down and said, I'm going to do my take on it. All right, big deal. And then I noticed that one of, excuse me, that never happens. One of my colleagues took a design of his and made swag out of it. Now, the trick here is you can come up with a design and release it, right? It's free and open source. Anybody is welcome to that design. Let me know where you want me to put it. I have it available as transparencies, and of course, it can be vectorized, so you can resize it any way you want. Excuse me. And what this colleague did is, if you have a show like this, and he has a show, and making swag is easy, relatively speaking. Design it, go to a printer, a screen printer, and then it suddenly gets hard because you either have to tell your customers, place your orders, and we'll ship it in about 6 weeks, because they need about 6 weeks worth of orders to make it worthwhile for the printer, the screen printer, to print a couple dozen shirts instead of one. They do all the setup, they do it, and then they do the tear down and do somebody else's job. So that's not practical unless you got your own thing. Then, having done that, then you got to bring it back to your place and ship it and pack it and all that stuff. You could take a risk. You could say, I'm going to take a guess that I'll sell this many small t-shirts and this many small hoodies and this many, and order all the different sizes and warehouse them and wait and hope for the... That's a fairly hefty financial investment, and it's risky. But I learned from him, because I saw something that he did. There are fulfillment houses out there. They're not just screen printers. They take your design and they handle everything. They handle the orders. They handle the warehousing. They handle the shipping. They get the lion's share of the cash from it. You get a percentage of it. But for me, I don't care. I'm not looking to make money off of swag. I'm looking to provide interesting and fun products. And what swag does is, kind of puts the word out about your shows, your podcast, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to make about 4 designs. That one will be the first one. And this week and this weekend, I'm going to do the other 3 and give these guys a call. And there will be swag. There will be swag. It'll start out with shirts, a t-shirt and maybe a long sleeve, something like that. Winter's coming. But there will be swag. And I am very excited about that. It is Thursday night. 2 new shows came back on the air last week. Watched them on Friday. Huzzah, that was fun. What We Do in the Shadows came out last Thursday or so. It came out someday last week. So queued that up for Friday binge. The next episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds came out last week. That was a Friday night. So the missus and I took Friday night and we watched 2 shows. There's 2 more shows that we like, but they're not in production. However, one is on probably as we speak now. It's on a little bit later, and that is Tacoma FD. So tomorrow night, I got my TV laid out. We're going to do the next Star Trek episode. We're going to do the next What We Do in the Shadows episode. And it's been a long time. It's been since over COVID since we've seen the next episode of Tacoma FD. I am a stoked puppy. Told you, part of the topics is movies and music. I've never asked him how to pronounce his name. I don't know if he's Joe Ram or Ram. I've always called him Ram, but I don't know. It could be Ram. I'll ask him next time I talk to him. Thank you, Patricia Grace, in so many ways. Okay, cool. That'd be interesting. It will be. It looks like a shirt costs about $22 plus shipping, so it's not an inexpensive proposition. They set the price, but I'll cough up $100 for a set. It's pronounced RAM. Steve, RAM can be Rom or Ram. Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Rom is RAM or RAMM. I don't think it's ROM. So not helpful, bud, but you're always helpful, and thank you. I get from that you're saying RAM as in DRAM. So, okay. Joe Ram, Joe Rom, JR. I'm right. You have personally signed my swag now. Oh, you know what? Freaking brilliant idea. Let's see if we do swag, when we do swag, I'm going to find a way to get it to pass through here for anybody who wants. That's stupid. I'm Dave Rush. Nobody wants or needs my signature. But if you're crazy enough, I'm willing. We'll work it out. I'm going to hold this till next week because we're at the half-hour point. And if this goes quickly, I'll come back and talk about one more thing. All right, so the last messages, and then let's start Uncle Projecto. Tomorrow night, Team USA. Which sport? As if I didn't know, Scott. And Scott's not a one-sport guy, but football hasn't started up yet, so soccer is the only thing. Apparently today or this weekend, sometime plus or minus next day or two, the last major golf tournament is on. I don't follow golf. I just happened to catch that as a blurb on the news. Sorry, Dave. I meant that it's pronounced... Oh, capital R. That makes all the difference. Okay. So it's RAM. Women's World Cup. Okay. I didn't sign my Sec Plus book. Yeah, that's up to Scott. Scott wrote Sec Plus book. All right, I'm going to fire up on Project. I'll put a pause on my feed here and let it not scroll, and it'll super scroll when I get back. So I want to talk about ping, and what I want to talk about it is the mythology. Some of you may have seen this on social post that I made to talk about today's show. It used to be in the early days of ping and internet that ping was a testing tool, and that wasn't his intent, but it worked out, to check and see if your NIC is functioning. There is a way to use ping to test your NIC. And there are ways now, because things have changed a lot in the last 25 years, that ping doesn't test your NIC. That's the mythology. Everybody thinks, not everybody, but there's a lot of folks out there who teach that you can use ping and use it this way and it'll test your NIC. And I have seen so many people teach, do it this way and test your NIC. And I wasn't sure. So I got deep into it. I got deep into the IP stack and what lives where, and hopefully what I've learned will dispel some mythology and add some real world stuff to it. I do want to point out that there are a lot of folks out there, even as I was doing this research, who contend that ping stands for something. Well, the gent who wrote the first version of ping is no longer with us, but he wrote his tell-all, as you know, everybody who was in the early days of internet development, Al Gore, when he invented it, he never wrote his tell-all book. He just said, I took the initiative and invented the internet. But it's a very short book. But the guy who made ping in his book said it doesn't stand for anything. It never stood for anything. There's a lot of people out there who it's power internet groper, and I saw some new definitions for it in the research this week. No, ping, he took it from the sonar ping of submarines and other underwater devices. And the whole point and value of it was so he could check to see if a particular computer was turned on, and so he would ping it, and if it was turned on, it would respond to the ping, sonar's working. And he said in particular, there was a young lady who was at the computer that was his primary target, so he was the first cyber stalker. All right, so ping. We generally know what a ping is if you're hanging out here. It's an IP message that's made up of two parts. It's got a request, it's got a reply, and it's an internet control message protocol, ICMP. There's a couple ICMP tools. They live somewhere in the lower portions of the IP stack. They live above the MAC layer. They live above the network interface card driver. They live above the network interface card. And again, there's more than one ICMP out there, but so we're going to do some pinging, and we're going to capture some of those pings with WireShark and see some differences, hopefully. I have had WireShark on my Generation 4 computer for over a decade. Every now and again, I update it. It has been a long time since I updated it. I thought, well, I probably ought to have the newest, latest, greatest version for this show. And because I mentioned in my show last year that there was a major update and upgrade to WireShark and advised everybody to do it. The cobbler has no shoes. I didn't do it. So I did my upgrade this week, and wow. I'm not going to do a class on WireShark today, but it's just good. So if you've been running WireShark for a while and you haven't updated in the last 6 or 7 months, the new one, we've gone from a 3.x to a 4.0. It's a full whole number revision and very, very different. All right. When you ping something, if the something replies, if the host replies, there's a lot of information that comes back in the reply. A couple of them in particular, RTT, round trip time. How long did it take for us to send the ping, it to be received by the recipient host, and responded and get back? Our ping is the one that's timing out that. When it sends out the ping, it starts a timer, and when the reply comes back, then it stops the timer and says, okay, this is how long it took. So the respondent doesn't care. There's a TTL parameter, time to live. That's how many routers this thing is allowed to go through. So let's say that the TTL is a low number, but 16. That means if it goes through 8 routers to get to the destination, every time it goes through there, that number is decremented in the ICMP message. So by the time it gets to the recipient, it's down to 8. Now it comes back through 8 routers. Maybe it makes it back to us, depends on how it counts the routers. And maybe it doesn't. I'm seeing buffering. Let me know if we're buffering on your side. Okay, I'm back. And so some ping utilities will allow you to adjust the TTL so it can get through more routers. If it runs out, if it goes through more, it's a TTL of 16 in the core ping request, then it'll never come back. It'll be evaporated by the time it comes back through some too many routers. All right. Payload sizes are different. Different ping utilities have different default payload sizes. The one in Windows is different than the ones in most Linux versions. And this matters because payload size can be part of the weaponry when we use ping, when we wouldn't do this, we're good guys, but when bad guys use ping as a malicious actor, as a DDoS attacker or something like that. So in Windows, there are ping switches. Let's bring up our command prompt. And let's just run the ping command, which will fail because ping has mandatory information that you have to provide. The minimum information you must provide after ping is the identification of the target. And you can do that by IP address or by DNS name. And then here's a whole bunch of possible switches that we can use to control that. There's default values, but you can see if I can force it to resolve an IP address to a host name. I can specify the number of pings that it sends. The Windows pinger by default sends out 4 pings. I can specify the size of the payload, all kinds of goodies. And I'm not going to go through and read this all to you, but you get the idea. So if you type ping and you don't put any parameters after it, you're going to get help. You could also say ping/help or help space ping and get the same information. Now I want to mention a thing called ping spoofing. Ping spoofing goes by some other names like ICMP flood or ping flood. And there's 3 ways to pull those things off. A ping flood can be done with a single bot blasting a single target with rapid fire ICMP request. By default, Windows sends a ping every second, but we could back that down to 0.01 seconds and send them continuously or send huge numbers. So we're starting to flood some host and we're DOSing them, right? Multiple bots can drown a single host with ICMP. Now we're DDoSing, and that's an interesting thing on what they do with it, because if we're DDoSing, there's 2 ways to do it. One is, here's a bot, and he's at IP address 1.1.1.1. He sends out a ping from 1111, and it comes back to 1111. It gets responded to. And again, we can drown it and do them really fast and totally swamp the system. Meanwhile, while we're trying to swamp it with this bot, we fire up that bot and say, hey, you're at 2222. Make sure you ping it. Well, this is, of course, how bot networks work. Your machine may be involved in a ping flood and you don't know it, and you may be getting these ping responses, but because you're not running real ping, nothing visual, they've been sort of recoded, you don't know that it's happening. You'd have to have WireShark or some other packet capture utility to know if you are running a bot, if you are participating in any kind of distributed denial of service attack. And then the third way is another DDoS, could even be done with a single bot, where a ping ICMP packet is created, and built into the information there, into the header, is an IP address that isn't the IP address of the actual sender. So I'm going to send out an IP address from 1.1.1.1 to some target, 2222, but in the packet it's going to say this request came from 1.2.3.4. So that machine, not only is he getting bombarded with these floods, but he's responding to a different host. And then they get really fun. They send another ping packet with a different sender's address, 3.4.5.6. And, just keep doing that. And so it makes random or sequential. So there's some really nasty stuff out there. Are there fixes? Are there protections from that? Yes, of course. Sites such as CloudHost. No, I made notes. Cloudflare. They can intercept all of this traffic that's destined for a given IP address, filter out the bad stuff, and they have the horsepower to handle all that distributed attack stuff, and then they identify what's valid traffic, and they forward that onto the real thing. Modern routers, real enterprise-grade routers, and your cheap Soho router in your house right now has the ability to watch certain kinds of packets, including ICMP packets, and check the source address. And if that source address isn't a legitimate address that comes from inside the WAN, it won't forward it out. So it's a really nice self-protective thing. All right, where are we at? 47. So let's do a little bit of pinging. I'm going to fire up WireShark. I'll start with a ping here, real simple one. Ping 8.8.8.8. I don't have WireShark fired up yet. I just want to do this ping. And it's a Windows ping, so he sends out 4 packets. They all had time to live of probably 64 and got knocked down to 56 by the time they got back. So we know it probably went through 4 routers up and 4 routers down. They are 32-byte payloads. Time on all of them was between 18 and 20 milliseconds. And we got replies from IP addresses. Again, if we use the minus S, it would say google.com here instead of that. All right, let me fire up WireShark. Dave, I want to see you fire up WireShark. I thought you might. So I've got WireShark launched, and he's not doing anything yet. He's just sitting there waiting for me to start a capture. So I will capture. And now she's a capturing. I expected to see it get swamped all of a sudden. Let me close it and launch it again. It's been sitting here for a long time doing nothing. Stand by. Let's go back to camera. Kill WireShark. That's not camera, but it's a good placeholder. Excuse me. Okay, now it's looking like it should. Okay, so there's WireShark. He's detecting traffic on his Ethernet interface and nothing else on all these other connections yet. So, all right, I'm good with that. I'm going to highlight it to select it, and then I'm going to say capture. And boom, there we go. Here comes all kinds of traffic. So now I'm going to open up. I won't show you this. I'm going to go do that same ping again. Ping 8888. I got reply, 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 reply. All done. So now I'm going to stop the capture. And I only want to see the ping traffic. So I'm going to go into this visual filter and I'm going to type in ICMP. And there's some other ICMP traffic on here. Some destination unreachable stuff. But here we go. Here comes a ping request that came from this computer, .105, and a reply that came from 8888. And here goes another request and a reply and a request and a reply and a request and a reply. Cool. That all makes kind of sense. Let me clear that. Actually, I'm going to start another capture here in a second, and it'll whine, because now I want to do the mythology. I'm going to start this thing capturing. No, I don't want to save. Continue without saving. And then I'm going to show you on here what I'm going to does. So I'll clear the screen here, and this time I'm going to ping the loopback address. Ping 127.0.0.1. Talking to itself. It's a very happy guy. All done. Now let me clear this ICMP filter. So here's all that new traffic that got captured. I go back into the ICMP filter, and look, there's no traffic. WireShark did not see. Oh, you can't see this. Hang on. I have the ability to help you see this and show you what I just did. Okay, WireShark. So I stopped that WireShark capture a little bit ago, and I started a fresh one. And this was all the fresh capture stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going on in this computer, and it's a brand new computer. I don't know what all of this stuff is yet. I haven't had a chance to look into it. But I'll put that ICMP filter back in, ICMP, enter, and look, no pings. I can't see any pings that were sent out from this computer. There's no replies that came back. Why? Because WireShark watches a certain layer of the IP stack, which is above 127.0.0.1. So we never saw the 127.0.0.1 traffic. How about we try something different? That's the mythology, right? You can't ping your NIC with 127.0.0.1. So I'm going to start a new capture. Okay, it's capturing. Now let's go over to the command prompt, and this time let me double check and see make sure I got the right IP address on this thing. IP config, and it is 105. Okay, CLS. So I'm going to ping 192.168.1.105. Buzz, buzz, grind, grind. Okay, it's all done. Now we'll go back to WireShark. We stop the capture. All that stuff that's been going on since I started, but we'll filter out everything except ICMP traffic. ICMP, enter. Didn't make it. And that's a function of the NIC driver. Okay, some NIC drivers will pass this information out the NIC, and the NIC will hear it back. On my other computer, it's an old system with old drivers, and I use a USB NIC on that one. That one spots it. This one didn't. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. There is no hard and fast rules here, excuse me, about whether or not you can use ping to test your NIC. Maybe. But there's no guarantees. And the only guarantee, the only way to truly test a NIC for inbound and outbound traffic is to be on the other end, on the recipient end, with a packet capture, or in between them as a middleman listening, maybe on a monitor port of a switch or something like that, or with a third-party testing utility that came with the network interface card in question. That's it, folks. Oh, let me show you one other thing here, since we're good on time. Yeah, I got a couple seconds to do this. Let me fire up the pinger. I don't have WireShark set. I probably do have WireShark set up on there, but I'm going to do the same ping in Linux. I'm going to ping. Well, let's just hit ping. Hey, you blew it there, bud. So it doesn't offer help if you type ping with no parameters. It just says you got to do some parameters. So if you want to find out how to use ping in Linux, it's ping space minus minus help. And they got a lot more parameters on here than the Windows version of ping. So let's ping 8.8. In fact, let's ping a different one, 8.8.4.4. Oh, heck, let's go really crazy. It's my show. I can do this. ADRAMADA.com. Going. Because unlike ping in Windows, it doesn't send 4 and give up. It sends continuously. We got to do ping minus T to send continuously in Windows. So I got to stop it with Control C. And then if you want to specify a particular number of pings, you say minus N and how many pings you want to do. 1. Never do anything without testing first. All right. Not going to. Oh, there we go. 14 transmitted, 0 received. I got some typo somewhere, but you get the idea. All right. That's the mythology of ping. So let's see what final comments happen. We're going to finish the show on time today. Do the last Q&A. Do all that other good stuff that we do at the end of the show. I was going to demo ping spoofing, but it takes two things that I wasn't able to prepare in time. One was a preparation issue, and the other was a technical impossibility. I didn't have the tool here or the time to learn it to build an ICMP packet. And second of all, if I did, I have one of those routers that would have prevented the demo that I wanted to do. I wanted to send a response back to some other ostensible tester. All right. So who finished up here? Abu Bakr came in and said hi. Everybody said hi to him. I heard it come from Ping Pong Pong Sport. There's a lot of different mythology about its name and its origin. I'll take the horse's mouth on this one. No buffering yet. Okay, good. It didn't buffer. It was just my system. Man ping. Right. So you can man ping if you're in Linux as well as minus help. Wrong keyboard. Quick, let's all DDoS and see. Yeah, DDoS me. WireShark. Oh, Baby Shark. Okay. I humbly apologize if anyone now that's something stuck in there. I can't get the tune in my head. I've had another tune running all day, so it hasn't replaced mine. Thank you. Thanks, pal. I'm gonna have nightmares. Abu Bakr, I have this question coming to my mind every time. Why do we need to test our NIC from the first place? It's a good question. So, you know, the troubleshooting model, and it's not just a CompTIA troubleshooting model. We don't do CompTIA on this show, but the 6-step troubleshooting model is the same for a lot of different industries. Gather basic information, symptoms, talk to the users, all that stuff, formulate a theory, and so on. In networking, when we troubleshoot, there's one additional piece, and that is how to approach your gathering of information and your formulation of theory. And it's based on the OSI model, top down. Do you think, based on the symptoms that you've learned and the information that you've gathered, that this is most likely an application layer problem or presentation or session or transfer? And you work down based on your theory of what's most likely. Or if it's more likely that you have a physical layer problem or a MAC layer problem, layer 2, a switching oriented problem, then you would start at the bottom of the OSI model. And that's where we start NIC testing. And I'll come back to that. And then there is divide and conquer. Start somewhere in the middle where you believe that it actually exists, and then move up or down the OSI model with your testing and your theorizing in the direction that's most likely. Now, why do we start at the NIC? Why do we always test the NIC? Because 8 times out of 10, problems are physical. I I had this computer plugged in another room for all of its setup and installation of Windows. Working fine. It was online. I had to make an online account. Then I brought it in here and it wouldn't connect to the internet. And I'm fighting and rebooting and checking drivers and nothing. And then I looked at one of my other computers and it was disconnected from the internet. All problems are physical. 8 times out of 10, I went back and looked at my switch, and when I had plugged in this new computer into my switch, I knocked loose the main feed from the router. Plug in, everything works. So I think that fits the answer very well. More often than not, it's NIC oriented or connector oriented or cable. It's physical layer. That's my answer to that. It's not always. And when it's not, it's a lot more challenging to find. My biggest, most challenging troubleshooting problem, some of you guys were online with me when it happened a couple of years ago anyways, is that was I had a duplicate IP address here in the house, and it brought everything down. I had to shut everything down one by one, bring each thing up, check its IP address until I found another device that duplicated one and get that fixed. Okay, that finishes everything up here. I assumed it was a submarine reference for radar sonar. You're exactly correct. All right, well, we've had another lovely hour together. Enjoyed the time with you as ever and always. I don't know what I'm going to do for next week's show, but I do know that we got a working system, and I am so stoked. So let's wind things up for the day. How do you do that? Which tool and of the 1,400 screens that I have open would I go to if I want to get ready to shut the world down? That one looks like a good one. All right, so as ever and always, it's Thursday. I wish you a great rest of the week and upcoming weekend. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. If at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday. And Tuesday. Steve is going to do the Tuesday Core 2 study hall. I guess there's nothing wrong with mentioning that here, right? Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eep, op, ork, later, guys.